Hey, what's up, YouTube fam? Appreciate y'all for stopping in, checking on me, spending time with old man once again. Let's get right into it. All right. Well, as you know, I did my second session video a few days ago, last weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and I just want to give a recap on that. I I personally thought that comparing it to my first session, it was a pretty substantial leap forward. I saw myself, I felt like my transitions were were just a lot better. I felt like my recognition of phrases was a lot better. My song selection, I will admit, with the exception of the first two songs or the first song or two songs there was a good bit of blending going on. But after that, I just kind of just winged the rest of the selection just based on my knowledge. I guess I was testing my knowledge of the Camelot wheel system, and I think it went pretty well. I felt like it did. So I was very happy, very pleased with being able to do that. Now, things that I noticed that that I definitely could improve on. Still, transitions. I kind of feel like transitions. Those are something that I'm probably going to just always be continuously working on. I'm not so sure as just in the quest for perfection, so to speak. So I think some tracks, you're gonna feel like you did it right, and some tracks you're gonna feel like you just could have done it better. I'm not so sure that feeling is ever gonna go away. But overall, I felt like I was a lot more consistent with it and a lot stronger at my transitions. Now, as far as the other elements that I included in there, there was a good bit of loops that I was putting in there. Some of them probably maybe a little too much. What else did I do? But with the exception, with that being said, though, I thought some of them were pretty decent and went pretty well. I still need to keep working on trying to perfect my loop spots, because the loops that I set during that session and to this point, all of the sessions I've ever had, those are just on the fly loops. Those aren't hot cued. I'm not using any hot cues for my loops like that yet. I guess I'm just trying to get comfortable just doing loops on the fly. So just keep that in mind. All the loops that I did perform, those were on the fly. No hot cues. Effects. I use some beat effects in there a little bit. Mostly some trans, I think. Some echo. I actually tried a small build up towards the end of the session there. If you get to that, I'd say probably the last couple of minutes of the session, I think I do a build up and kind of a drop. So those, like I said, I just did those things to just put record of where I was and kind of what I was working on. It's just so I can, like I said, just have it as a reference point when I go back and look, a few months from now, to see, my improvement, if there, was any improvement or not, to certain elements that I was trying to, that I've kind of been working on a little bit, just trying to learn. So, but overall, I felt like Um, the progress was noticeable. I felt like it was to me. Um, but you be the judge of that. You be that. That's up for you. All right. So one last thing that I just wanted to let you know, and as you can see on my screen here, I've got a DDJ GRV6 pulled up. Is that I recently acquired one of these locally on Facebook Marketplace. It was a heck of a deal, and I just went for it. It was a price I couldn't refuse, and I decided to give it a go. That was about a month ago. I mean, I tested it. I mean, it's basically brand new. I mean, I haven't used it. I bought it about a month ago. I haven't used it once. I've still been using the DDJ-400 100% of the time. This was maybe in another month or two, I'll actually start switching over. But for now, the DDJ-400 that I have, I'm comfortable with it. Um, I or getting comfortable. It has the DDJ-400. It has everything that I need right now, so I don't really feel like switching over right now. I would say, it's interesting because I think the last video that I put out, I talked about just keeping things simple and starting out small, simple, and not letting gear. When I say gear, I'm just talking about, just controllers and speakers and headphones and, your software become a distraction. Um, and I will say, well, I guess it's probably been over a month since I bought the GRV6. But I was gonna say at that particular time when I bought that, I didn't just looking at something like the GRV6. I mean, it was intimidating to me. It was pretty intimidating. I know there's a lot more, a lot bigger controllers, a lot more complex setups, particularly when you start getting into, CDJ type setups and things of that nature. Where you got separate DDJs and mixers, multiple CDJs and mixers, and separate beat pads and things like that. But something like um, the Flex 10 or the AZ or the Opus or even the GRV6 was pretty intimidating for me. But like I said, that was a couple of months ago, and I've learned a good bit since then. And when I look at between the time, I guess the month and a half or 2 months ago where I purchased the GRV6, my knowledge, I've increased in knowledge to where looking at the GRV6 now is not that, it's not as intimidating, as nearly as intimidating as it once was. So, and not only that, there are some features that I'm starting to feel like I would prefer and would appreciate on the GRV6 that the DDJ-400, it has them, but it's not necessarily as convenient. For example, when we're talking about effects, like the GRV6, it has a effects knob on it, so I don't have to go. If I want to change my effect, I can just turn a knob to change my effect. I don't have to go and look at Rekordbox per se and make sure that that my effect is set on the right effect, and scroll down to it, and kind of, I'm looking back and forth on Rekordbox. On the GRV6, I can just do it. I can just do it all on the knob. I don't have to look over at Rekordbox, so it would be less of a distraction. So that's one thing. And it's not just the beat effects knob that I think I'm looking forward to. I think it's just the more substantial controller itself. And when I say more substantial, I'm talking about like the large jog wheels. as strange as it may sound, particularly with the types of genres of music that I do and my style of DJing, scratching is not something that I see being an intricate part of that. But with that being said, scratching is something that I think is pretty cool and is a skill that I would like to learn how to do. And I've actually been practicing on it some. I mean, I'm like trash for sure, but having these larger jog wheels, I think, and just larger, more substantial jog wheels, they have a bit more tension to them, just a little bit more weight to them. Um, just they feel really good compared to the DDJ-400. Not that the DDJ-400 wheels feel bad or anything, but it's just different. They're smaller and just the GRVs have some tension to them. It's just, I don't know, more substantial feel to them. And two, having that third and fourth deck, it's starting to look pretty good. The type of DJing and genres that I'm doing now, that I find myself doing, I see that I'm layering vocals and beats for an extended period of time, sometimes for an entire length of a track. So, so when that's done, I find myself not having any room to have the next incoming song ready. So a third deck for sure is definitely, it's revealing itself to be something that's going to be a necessity for the type of DJing that I'm doing moving forward. So I'm looking forward to having that third and fourth deck on the GRV6 too. So it's one of those things where when it comes time to start looking at upgrading your controller or your gear, it will, I firmly believe it'll reveal itself to you, like as you progress and you see, oh, I feel like I need this or I need that, and the controller you have is not really giving you what you feel like you need. It's limiting you. Then that's when you start looking at legitimately making an upgrade to your controller and to your equipment, to your gear. So that's one thing I think is going to be pretty cool. And then just in general, the GRV has more of the CDJ 3000 club standard layout to it, where it has, it doesn't have the, as you can clearly see, like the pads underneath. It has the cues buttons, along top. It mimics more of the club standard, like I said, CDJ 3000 type layouts, which again, I don't really have any anticipation, or I don't see myself being in a club, or being a club DJ per se, or performing at that level. But I mean, who knows? I still would kind of like to, I don't know, be able to just to do so if I wanted to. Just say I'm in the club, right? I'm just there, and the DJ goes down, and somebody's like, "Hey, we need an emergency DJ. Can anybody help us out of this emergency situation?" And I just so happen to have my SSD drive with my track library on it, and I'm like, "Yeah, I got us. We covered. Get me in the booth. Get me in the booth. I got us." Or another scenario, just picture this scenario. I'm at a James Hype concert, and I'm out there, and James looks down, and he's like, "I see you, NOB. I see you. Why don't you come up here on the turntables and give this some work with me?" And I just happen to have my SSD with my library on. I might be all right. Maybe. But yes, I will say that in my growth and in my journey, the GRV6, it's not as intimidating as it used to be. So I see that I will probably be making that transition over to it. I'd say maybe in another month or two. I'm not in a rush for that. Like I said before, the DDJ 400, everything that I need right now. Um, and to get me, to just continue with me getting comfortable with the foundation and basics of things that I'm working on. Like for instance, I'm trying to work more on controlling loops and trying to start getting into creating build ups and drops, to a certain level. And the DDJ-400 has me covered. So I'm comfortable with it. I don't feel like introducing the GRV6 now, as like I said before, I feel like it'll be a distraction at this particular point for what I'm trying to learn, the skills that I'm trying to learn. So once here in a couple of months when I switch over, I should be make for a nice, interesting transition. Pretty fairly smooth. I know the GRV6 has a a little different, more CDJ 3000 type layout to it, so that'll be a little interesting. But the concepts and a lot of the other stuff will still be there, just from learning from the DDJ-400. And I will say that for anybody who's just in my skill level or lower, or just getting started, I do recommend you start with something like a DDJ-400. I wouldn't try to, it's easy to get into the trap of wanting something bigger. You look at the DDG, or they don't even make the DDJ-400 now, but the Flex 4 is what you would be looking at now as comparison to the DDJ-400. But you kind of want the it's easy to fall into the bigger is better type syndrome and mindset. And it'll look cooler, it'll look more impressive if I get this, if I get that, if I get a Flex 10 or a XDJ, I don't know, AZ, or an Opus Quad, or some CDJs, and stuff like that. But I will just say that, I firmly believe if you getting into those bigger controllers, they can be pretty intimidating, at least in my opinion. And it could have the reverse effect on you of becoming so intimidating and just feeling like you have to learn. There's so much about the controller that you are faced with learning that you forget the main focus of actually DJing. It distracts you from actually learning the skills of DJing. So just food for thought. That's just my opinion. But I will say I would advise you to start off with a Flex 4. Those things retain their value fairly well. So even if you just if you hold on to it and just get your basics down for several months or a year or a couple of years, if that's what you want to, you can still turn around and probably sell it for and get most of your money back out of it if you've kept it in good condition. So so don't feel like it's just it's money wasted, because you can definitely recoup some money off of your investment if you take care of it, and pass it on to somebody else who's coming up too, that needs to start off with a little something a little simple, a little simpler, and a little less expensive. Because two, you don't know if this is something that you're gonna really actually want to continue on long term. So putting $1,000, $1,500, $3,000, $3,500, just depending on what you're doing, into something that you don't even know if you're going to sustain sustain your interest in the hobby. It just, I don't know, just seems like it would make more sense to start off with something economical, user friendly, covers your basics, and just get your base, get your skills going, your basic fundamental skills going. And then once you get past that, then start looking at the bigger stuff. But All right, so I think I'm gonna end it there. I've been running my mouth long enough. I just wanted to kind of give you an update on where I am in terms of upcoming controller change, upgrades, I guess, and transition over. But like I said, that's a couple of months out, so I'm gonna keep on doing my DDJ-400 thing. So, all right, I'm gonna wrap it up on this one. And once again, I appreciate y'all for stopping in, spend the time with me on the journey. Hope I said something that helped you. But just be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Love y'all. Peace.